Yes. Okay. So, you know, those tasks that hang around your calendar that they're not technically alive, but they just won't die either. Those tasks that you keep moving from week to week to week. So, if you use like a project management system, you have moved that deadline time and time again. If you have it in your calendar, you have drug that event from week to week. If you write it on a piece of paper, you use note cards or you use whatever it is, a planner, then you have maybe crossed it out and written it again and again, again. That's what I call a zombie task. And we're going to talk about how I deal with those today. So this is Fri-YAY. This is my weekly web series. I'm Megan Ihnen. I'm a mezzo soprano. And this is the place where we talk about all things new music, business and music, music entrepreneurship. We talk about creative placemaking. We talk about audience development. And yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. I hope that you have a lot of yay in your day today. And if you don't, I hope we get there together. So let's talk about those zombie tasks. And when I'm bumping up against one of these zombie tasks, I always ask myself, is this in its smallest form? If you have followed any of my work for a while, you know that I'm obsessed with micro actions. And micro actions just means that you have taken whatever it is that you want to do and broken it down to its smallest component parts. So write the grant. This is the example that I use every single time. Write the grant is not a micro action because within that there's like 70 things that you have to do, right? So that can't be your micro action because the micro action is breaking it down into, you know, making sure that the budget is updated, making sure that the narrative is polished, making sure that you have a clear thesis that you need for the grant application, that kind of stuff. Making sure that your work samples are ready to go, that they're all edited and they're like set up so that you can just click copy paste, you know, into whatever it is that you're working on. So micro actions are obviously super important to me. If I am moving a task from day to day to day or week to week or month to month, then you know, or I know that it's probably not in its smallest form yet. So that's where I start first, is the micro action part. Is this in its very smallest form? Does it actually need to get broken down further? Am I procrastinating on it because I actually don't know what the component parts are to break it down? First steps. But what I really want to talk about is emotional urgency, logistical needs, and a trigger. These are, I find, so important to getting rid of these zombie tasks once and for all, so you've actually just done them rather than pushing them off into the future. Let's talk about emotional urgency first. So emotional urgency is about your desire, your deep core need to get that thing done. So many times, like I am definitely copping to this. This is a thing. I will fill up my to-do list with nice to have. It'd be nice to have this thing, but it's not even really that necessary. And so I've just created a ton of busy work about things that I don't really care that much about, but it's on there because I thought, well, I better do this, right? Oh, I should do this. If there's anything that's on your list because it's a I should do this or nice to have, cross it out, get rid of it. It'll come back to you when you need it. But when we're talking about things that you actually have a deep, real need around, that they're going to find their way into the work that you're doing. So with this, I want you to be considering emotional urgency as looking at that task on your list of things to do and ask yourself, like, what is my core emotional need behind this? And is it strong enough, right? So I'm going to use this example, and I don't think that my client would mind. We were talking about cleaning up scores for, you know, your store on your website or whatever, and just talking about cleaning up scores. It is a task. It takes time. It is not the most. It's certainly not the sexiest task that you've ever come up with for yourself, right? But you are going through. You're just gonna clean them up, and we were talking about how this moves, right? This is an example of a task that is going to get moved because you're just like, ugh, it's a whole thing and I just don't care that much about it, right? But when we talk about what is the deep emotional urgency around that, so when we were first discussing that, or I'm discussing this in general, the emotional urgency isn't there because it's like, oh, it would just be nice if my scores looked cleaner on the website, right? I just want to make sure that I'm putting stuff out there that looks nice. And of course, I get that. We all want our materials to look professional, top notch, all of that stuff. However, there's not an emotional urgency around that. And so you're saying, I'll get to that at some point when I've done all of the rest of the stuff. So once we started digging into that, and I'm not going to give any specifics about that, but I'm sure you could come up with your own versions of this, of what are you so deeply committed to on the other side of that, that cleaning up your scores suddenly becomes this absolute need in your life because it's the thing that's connected to what's on the other side. So another example of this, updating your CV or updating your rep list or something like that. So I'm going to take my own, for example, is that I have been like just garbage at updating a rep list. As for someone who has done a lot of rep, like I should be way better at this, but I haven't. It's true. And I realized because of this, I didn't have emotional urgency around it because I didn't have anything that it was connected to. There was no need for me to have a rep list that was searchable, that was shareable, that was complete. And the things that I recognized is that I was getting asked for things I want to be. My identity is connected to being a person who's helpful in spreading new music to interested performers as well as listeners as well as presenters. If I am the person that I want to be at my core and I can't recommend something because I go, oh yeah, what's that piece called? Oh yeah, that thing, I can't find it anymore. I did it with that one ensemble. That's not going to cut it. Like that's not me living up to my values. And so that's one example, right? Being someone who is also putting more contemporary rep in the world and saying like, this was written for me, that also needs to go on a rep list. And I'm going to be my own curator. I'm going to be my own archivist for those kinds of things. And the minute that I started having emotional connection to that, then it was something that I could get done in a day. And also shout out to Kyle Bruning for helping me. I made this rep list and then I was like, you know what? This needs to be better. Shout out to Kyle for helping me turn it into a rockstar system. So it's like you can search by different instrumentations. You can search by different composers. Oh man, it's good. I created with Kyle's help, have my own database of scores now. But that's the kind of thing is that once it moves from zombie task land into something you've actually done, then it can turn into a system. Then it can turn into a resource. Then it can turn into a guide. It can turn into something that other people can use. If it's just laying around there or it's not in existence at all, it's still in zombie task land, it's nothing. It's not even helpful to me. So I want you to think about that. So we got to bringing that emotional urgency into the topic is key. So then let's talk about logistics, right? I broached this a little bit with the fact that the micro action side of it is that logistically, how much time do you need? What are the resources that you need to complete this task? This is the other part, is that I want to be able to look at your calendar and know that the thing that you're wanting to get done is on there, right? If you have write artist statement on your to-do list, but I don't see it somewhere blocked out with time, it's not happening. And so I want you to logistically create the situation in which that thing will get done. Do you need to set aside time to pitch presenters, to pitch commissioners, to write templates, to create a contract, to do any of these kinds of things? Do you need time in there? Is that happening in your schedule right now? What kind of space do you need in? You can probably get this done maybe with your phone. If not, just grab your computer and get it done. So maybe you just need a space, you need a computer, you need some sort of, maybe you even just write it out by hand if you're in a place where maybe you're putting it in a journal. Whatever it is, get it done. You can set aside that time, but I want to see it somewhere. I have set up the parameters to make this possible. So once I have emotional urgency, and then I've created the circumstances for which it could happen, I am so set. The last thing I need is a trigger. So the reason I want you to put it on your calendar is because calendars now, if it's on your phone, or calendars that are written are, and you check it regularly, are a trigger. It's the thing that reminds you to do the thing that you said you were going to do. So all I want you to have is some sort of trigger that says that you set aside time to do this now. I'm going to remind you that you wanted this. Put inside that trigger, if it's on your calendar, write in the description of it, write your emotional urgency to it, right? Just check in with that and be like, oh yeah, if you've been telling me that you want to start a podcast, if you've been telling me that you want to start a video, like get your performances on YouTube regularly, right? If you've been telling me that you really want to start writing a song cycle, whatever it is, if I don't see that blocked out on your calendar, how much do you really want that? And then I want you to connect that with what's the emotional urgency. Why do I really want to write the song cycle? Why do I really want to start the podcast? Why do I really want people to watch my videos? If I know that, I have set aside, I've made the circumstances available to make it happen, and I create the trigger that says, you said you were going to do this now. Do it now. Then zombie tasks come back to living tasks, right? We got like no more Night of the Living Dead, no more like, coming for you, leaching out your brains, none of that, because they turn into living, breathing things. They turn into whatever you were thinking that was going to happen next. They're no longer this thing that follows you around and you go, oh yeah, I was going to do that. Oh. So no more, none of that. It's because you're taking action. So take a look at what's on your to-do list. Is it in micro-action form? Do you have emotional urgency? Have you set aside the parameters to do it? Have you given yourself a trigger? And if you don't have those things, cross it off. It's not time for it yet, right? It'll come back. It'll come back if you need it, right? Set up another time for it. If you're ready, you'll make time for it. To be clear, I'm not talking about hustle and grind or not taking care of yourself because you're like completing tasks. I'm talking about legit, necessary, important things in your life. You'll make the time. And we all do that differently. I want you to think about how that happens for you. So no more zombie tasks. That's it. Happy Fri-YAY. As always, divas, stay sparkly inside and out.